30 times 10, what is my answer going to be?
You move your decimal, it'll be 300.
Exactly. So I'm going to move my decimal again, and the answer is 300. So 30.0 times 10 gives me 300.0. So again, that decimal is just moving one place to the right. And again, if I multiply 300 times 10, my answer is 3,000. So again, I'm just taking the decimal point and moving it one place to the right. So anytime you multiply by 10, you don't have to work that out with your calculator. You don't have to work that out on paper. You can just take the decimal point and move it one place to the right. Okay? Okay, and we also need to discuss what happens when I divide by 10. Okay? So in this example, I've got 2,470 divided by 10. And we've talked before about operations that are opposites. So the opposite of multiply by 10 is what? Divide by 10. And so we're doing the opposite. Okay? So when I take 2,470 and divide by 10, what is my answer going to be? Say again? 247. Good. So my answer is going to be 247. So again, notice that the decimal in 2,740 is moved one place to the right, to the left, and I'm left with 247. Okay? And then if I take 247 and divide by 10, what is my answer? Good, 24.7. Again, we're just moving the decimal. So we're taking the decimal from here, we're moving it one place to the left, and so my answer is 24.7. And then if I take 24.7 and divide by 10, exactly, 2.47. Again, my decimal point is going to move one place left, and I'm left with 2.47. Okay? So do we have a clear idea of how to multiply by 10 or divide by 10 in the decimal system? Okay. Okay, so the next thing we need to discuss is the metric system. There are some prefixes that we see on all of our units of measure in the metric system. So we said some units of measure are millimeter, centimeter, meter, and kilometer. Okay? Well, we see the prefix milli, on the millimeter. Okay? And that actually has a meaning. If we understand the meaning, it's going to help us to remember how to convert units. So the prefix milli is a Latin prefix that means 1,000. Okay? And so millimeter means there are 1,000 of these in a meter. When I say millimeter, I'm saying 1,000 of these in a meter. Okay? We also have the prefix centa, which is another Latin prefix, and centa means 100. So can you think of another word that uses the prefix cent? Begins with cent? Well, cent itself is a word, right? What is a cent? One what? If I have 1 cent in my pocket, what do I have? I have a penny, right? I have a penny. So there are 100 cents in a dollar. Okay, so a cent is 1 out of 100. And notice, again, that means 100. Okay? Another example would be the word century. Century. What is a century?
10 years.
Not 10 years. That's a decade.
Not 20. 100 years.
100 years, right? We're living in the 21st century. If you were born like I was before the year 2000, then you lived for a period of your life in the 20th century. Okay? And so a century is 100 years. So we can remember that cent or centa means 100. And then the last prefix we see is kilo. And that's actually a Greek prefix. It's coming from a different origin. And it means 1,000. So So if I have a kilometer or kilometer, this means I have 1,000 meters. Okay? So hopefully knowing the meaning of the prefixes will help you as you're trying to remember how to do these conversions, because your formula sheet is not going to have the conversions on them. Okay? And so I've got a little video for us to watch. It's very short, and honestly it's a little bit dorky, and that's okay. But it's going to help you, it's a mnemonic device, which means it's something to help you remember what the prefixes mean. So that's a little dorky, like I said, but hopefully when you see your test and you see milli, you're going to go milli, 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 milli in your head, and you'll remember that it means 1/1000. Okay, so even though it's dorky, it can help us remember. Okay, so the metric system conversions, we've kind of already talked about this, but there are 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. There are 100 centimeters in a meter, and there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer. Okay? And we'll do an activity in a little bit so that you can actually work with measuring things in the metric system and doing these conversions. But this is our conversion, so you might want to write those down somewhere so that you can remember them in the future. So I'll give you a minute to write those down. And if I want to convert units in the metric system, what I need to ask myself is, should I be multiplying in this situation or should I be dividing? And one way to remember is to know that if I'm converting from a smaller unit, say millimeters, that's a very small unit, and I'm converting to a bigger unit, then I'm going to need to divide. And I'll either be dividing by 10 or 100 or 1,000. If I'm converting from a larger unit, say kilometers, and I want to turn that into a smaller unit, say meters, then in that situation I'd be multiplying. And so division is actually going to create a smaller number of units. If I divide, my answer is smaller. But multiplication is going to create a larger number of units, because if I multiply a number times something, my answer is going to be larger. Okay? So let's look at some examples. Here are a few examples. And so in the first example, which is taller? Which is taller? A bookshelf that is 134 centimeters high, or a coat rack that is 2.67 meters high? Which of those is going to be taller? So in other words, which is more? Which is greater? 134 centimeters or 2.67 meters? Yes, and why do you say that, Big Sada?
Because 2.67 we need to divide by,
Okay, but how many centimeters would we have if we have 2.67 meters?
267.
200.